because I think it's important. I think it's important to our discussion in terms of understanding determinism and the statement that all men know that situations call for decision. And so every day of our lives, we are faced with situations that require a decision. Now, in some instances, some folks may not be able to respond to a particular situation for several reasons. One may be because of this certain level of disabilities that they may have. Those disabilities may be due to mental health issues. Those disabilities may be due to medical issues, physical issues. Some of those may also be because of social issues. For example, I would have liked to have gone to higher education, maybe to a Harvard or a higher, more prestigious institution. That might be my wish, and I may have had challenges. But at the end of the day, based on my socioeconomic and my intellectual abilities, I wasn't able to take advantage of those situations. Now, you also are faced with situations every day in your life. And some of them, you look at them and you decide, look, you know what, I'd like to, but because of the following reasons, I'm not equal to to take advantage of that situation. From a spiritual standpoint, there are many statements in the scriptures that says that nothing is impossible with God. And I'm sure you're familiar with those passages. As a matter of fact, Mary, when she was told about the birth of Jesus, that was one of the statements, that nothing is impossible with God, that with God, all things are possible. So whenever you are faced with a situation, I think that's one of the things that you have to look at seriously, whether or not I have, for example, anxiety, for example, by definition, is a situation where you feel that you don't have the resources in order to face the challenges ahead of you. Now, of course, you have to understand that your perception of the situation may well be delusional. Do you understand what I mean when I say may well be delusional? Can you frame an example where in your mind there is a situation and you conclude that you're not capable of handling that situation, but the whole assessment is in fact delusional? Can you give an example of such a state?
Yes, sir. We'd like to know, to have some explanation about the word delusion.
Okay, delusion means that you are in your home, and all of a sudden you have this feeling or sensation that there is a poisonous snake in the room, and therefore you begin to panic and freak out. But in essence, there are no poisonous snakes in Jamaica to begin with. And obviously, there's none in your room.
Yes, sir.
So that belief system is delusional, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
There's no reality to it. And
yes.
So to a certain extent, the anxiety is triggered by a lot of delusional thinking. In other words, poor me, I am not able to. I can't ride in if I get on this elevator, I will die. If the lights go out in this room and I'm in darkness, I will die. Is that a true statement?
Yes, sir.
Is it a true statement?
No, sir.
Okay. But do people in fact are crippled by that? They can't be in the dark. They can't ride an elevator. There are people who cannot and will not get on an airplane because they feel that if they do, the plane will crash.
Yes, sir.
But that's when I say delusional, that's what I mean. In other words, their thoughts are not accompanied with reality. There's no reality. There's no truth to it. It's delusional. There are people who believe that people are talking about them, and they're paranoid. They feel that, they are so important that people are actually talking about them every day. That's delusional, isn't it? It's paranoia.
Yes, sir.
So what I'm saying is that when you're faced with certain situation, that sometimes your assessment may well be delusional, or it may be due to paranoia. Some people suffer from what we call social phobia. These are students, young people, who have to be schooled at home because they cannot be in public. They cannot be around other human beings in school. So they either fake that they're sick, they have a headache, whatever. They come up with all kinds of medical, what we call psychosomatic illnesses that don't exist in order to avoid a certain situation. Sometimes some students may face with an exam, which is a situation, may fake that they're sick so that, or get an excuse so they can't be in the exam room because they feel that they don't have the ability to pass the test. They know they're going to fail. So here is a situation that calls for a decision, and the decision is to go to the classroom, sit, be ready, and take the test. So they come up and they make up excuses as to why they can't. And there are many, many, many other examples as to why people, when faced with a situation. For example, on a Sunday morning, a person may have been, staying up late, maybe who knows what they were doing Saturday night. And come Sunday morning, they feel like you have to go to church, but they cannot afford to say, I'm not going. They make up some excuse. They may say, I have a headache. I don't feel well today. Or whenever you see them during the week, say, what happened, sister or brother? Oh, no, I wasn't feeling well. I was sick. Well, how do you explain that behavior? It's a lie, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So every day we are what Aristotle is saying is that by all men, that is all humans, know that situations call for a decision. Every day, when you woke up this morning, you had a situation to be in class. That's a situation. You could have chosen not to be here, but you would have had to justify it by coming up with some logical explanation. And one might be you're not feeling well. One might be that you have a headache. One might be that I fell asleep. Whatever it is, we always formulate some kind of a decision. Either it is a proactive decision, in other words, a positive decision, or it could be a negative, or it can be delusional. But again, by delusional, I mean that I can't go to school today because it's going to rain. It may rain. So I can't go downtown today because it may rain. Well, how do you know that? Did you watch? You may not have even watched the weather. You may not have even, did its groundwork to actually come to a solid conclusion. So we make decisions. And some of those decisions that I'm saying to you may be because you have mental problems, because you have physical problems. It may be because you're delusional, or you may be making decisions that are sound and decisions that are good. But every day we're making decisions. In other words, we're using our free will. We're exercising our free will. However, that process can be compromised. Can you give me an example where your free will may be compromised?
Yes, sir.
Give me an example.
Like if you are going out, well, I mean, you'd like to go out walking. That's what you'd like to do. But now there is a rain, for example. You can't exercise, that you can't satisfy that particular need. So you probably have to take a car or a taxi, which is against your will. This was not what you were seeking to do. But because of the rain now, you are forced to take the taxi.
Well, I'm not sure if that's a good example, but I do appreciate your thoughts on it and I respect it. But let's think for a moment for someone who is a drug addict, who, in order to support their habit, they break into somebody's house and steal, and may even wind up killing that person because they're so high on crack or cocaine. Would you consider that to be an impaired judgment?
What judgment?
Impaired. Someone who is get into a car, drunk, driving, and eventually kill someone. Is that an impaired judgment?
No, sir.
Yes, it is. Because once you're drunk, what happens to your ability?
You don't have control over them, sir.
Right, because when you're drunk or high, you think you can jump off a building and survive, right? Your judgment is impaired. One of the reasons that I am so opposed to the legalization of marijuana or ganja, whatever terminology you use, because once you are high on marijuana, it impairs your judgment. So I would say to someone, if you are high on marijuana, you don't want to go to a 5-story building because you may think you can jump off and fly because your judgment is impaired. So there are certain drugs that do impair your ability to be rational. And so your judgment becomes impaired. That's why you're told if you drink, don't drive. And the reason they say that is because they know that the alcohol will impair your judgment. You're not quite rational anymore. And so when you're called upon to make a decision, that decision may be so impaired that you're not able to make some judgment at that particular point. So for example, when a person is in anger, in rage, that may not be a time to have a reasonable discussion with them.
Yes, sir.
It might be, if you want to have a discussion with them, you wait until they calm themselves down, because if you do, it would only inflame it further. And then the discussion can then escalate into physical violence, where they'll go from beating you with their tongue verbally with words to where they want to, now use their fists, because you could see the escalation. So we start out with a rational discussion "Sir, why did you take my parking space? Don't you see I was waiting here to take this space?" And then the person says, "Get out of my face," and they start using, dirty words, demeaning words. And then next thing you know, your heart start beating a little faster. And the person kept going. And sooner or later, what you want to do? You may go over and slug them, don't it?
Yes, sir.
See, so that's where the judgment becomes what? Impaired. And then during that fight, it may even be that the person wind up dead. And now you're in jail and you start thinking, why did I do that? Why didn't I? You start thinking of all the possible things you should have done. But at that point, it's too late. So that's what I'm trying to get us to see, that once your judgment is impaired, how you handle the situation in front of you may not be an appropriate way. That's why many Christians get into trouble. Yes?
In other words, you're saying that in these particular times, you do not have free will.
Right. I'm saying that the free will is so impaired that your judgment, for example, Adam and Eve always had free will. But at one point, Adam made a decision that was not sung. He was so caught up in, he surrendered himself to his wife. And he became basically, what should I say, very passive. And so he set in motion his decision is impacting you even today. So his decision back then is impacting you and will impact your children and your grandchildren because of his action that he exercised his free will, but the judgment he made, the decision that he made was not the right decision. And in our individual lives, we make decisions every day. Some are good and some are not good.
Yes, sir. Just like for Adam's case, some of them are going to have consequences that will come, along 100 of years.
Right. So Galatians chapter 6, I think it's from verse 7 to verse 9, clearly says that whatsoever a man sow, that he would reap. In other words, what that passage is saying, that how you handle the daily situation, the decisions that you make may have lasting effects. So for example, a young man sees a young lady, he's infatuated with her, he chases her, and eventually they have sex. About 3 months or so later down the road, he got a call that she is pregnant. Now, again, he's now faced with another decision, isn't it? See, there's a situation. There was a situation where he could have said no to sex, but he handled it wrongly. Now, there's another situation that he is facing, and now the girl is pregnant. So see, now he has another situation. And in some instances, his decision might be, I will drive you to have an abortion, I'll pay for it. So he get involved in it, he accomplish it. Now, after the abortion, he's happy again, isn't it?
Yes,
He
sir.
feels that he's free. However, he was instrumental in taking a life. Now, there is no way he can walk around that. Now, on the other hand, if he has the child, then he is locked into child support if he's in the United States. That means that 17% of his income will have to go to that child until that child is 21 years old. 17% of his income. And then if he goes around and make the same mistake again, now he has a second child. So now you have 17 and 17 is how much? 7 and 7, 14, 1, 2, 3, 30 something percent of his income will go. The government will take it. And then he makes another mistake and he has another child. You follow?
Yes,
Before
sir.
you know it, he has to run and leave the country and hide because he can never work again. Can't even get a license because they will suspend your license. You can't get a license. If you're a doctor, they'll take your license. If you whatever license you have, the state will take it. Then you will never be able to get a job your whole life. What I'm saying is every situation calls for a decision. And as young men, you have to really be thinking about the decisions because they could have long-term effect. Some decisions are great decisions. For example, like being in the school of preaching. This could be the stepping stone for something great in your life. And so there are other decisions to be made because another decision might be, do I just want to have a diploma from the school of preaching? Do I want to supplement that with something else? Do I want to start taking some O-levels so that maybe I could, be able to get a good job and be able to supplement my income? Maybe I want to be able to go to a university. Obviously, they will not accept your Jamaica School of Preaching certificate, right? You understand that?
No.
You didn't know that?
Well, I don't know.
Well, I'm telling you now. I'm telling you now.
Repeat that again, sir.
I'm telling you now, the certificate that you receive from the Jamaica School of Preaching, you cannot use it to go to the University of the West Indies. You cannot use it to go to any university in Jamaica or in Haiti or in United States or in Canada, anywhere in the world. That piece of paper will not be recognized. That piece of paper, though, will be recognized to preach within the churches of Christ. You understand?
Yes, sir. But I mean, when you speak about university, are you talking about other secular study, or like if you want to have a master in theology or something, you can't use the JSP certificate?
No. That paper cannot be used.
What?
Did someone tell you you can use it? Or you just make that? You see, again, we're talking about situation and decisions, right? You've made a decision on wrong information.
Well, sir, well, I mean, to my knowledge, so if you went to a university, whatever the study that you have made, the first paper that they gave you, if you want to continue or to go further with that study,
Let me make it simpler for you. If you wanted to come to a Christian university in the United States, they will ask you for your high school degree. If you have that and your grades are good, then they will accept you. But the School of Preaching degree will not be accepted.
Oh, okay, sir.
Because that's why I'm trying to tell you. If you want to make the Jamaica School of Preaching education worthwhile, is to try to educate yourself while you're there. Try to take some evening classes from an accredited institution that you can use to go to the next level and get a master's degree or a bachelor's degree or whatever that will enhance your preaching and you working in the church?
Sir,
Yes, sir.
we want to you to give us more advice on that. I don't know if you're available right now, but I don't know if you can take another day in during the weekend or another week. I don't know, but as young men, we have plan, we have goal.
I
We
can
like
I can share with you. I can compare myself to say compare myself to say Francis York, for example.
oh,
Francis York had a good educational background. He went to high school, he graduated, and he's able to teach at the university there. He's able to teach in high school there. He's able to teach in the colleges there. The reason he's able to do that is because he complete high school and he has a good degree and he did some colleges and able to do that. I couldn't do that when I was in Jamaica. When I graduated the Jamaica School of Preaching and came to the United States, I had to start from scratch. But while I was in Jamaica, I took 2 or 3 subjects, O levels in those days. So that helped me. So those were the only thing that was accepted. And one of the reasons is that the Jamaica School of Preaching is not an accredited institution in Jamaica. Follow?
Oh, okay, sir.
So that piece of paper that you're going to receive has no value outside of preaching and teaching the gospel in local churches. However, I'm saying to you that as a young man who's going to have a family, you may wind up working for a local church that cannot afford to support you. So you may have to get a job in order to do that, a secular job. And when you apply for that secular job, they're going to ask you for you have a high school degree, you have a college degree. They're not going to ask. You can't say I have my Jamaica School Preaching degree. It's a certificate.
Okay.
So while you are in the School of Preaching, you really need to try to connect with people like Gladwin, like people like Joseph Buckland, connect with people like Francis York, connect with people like the Gladwin's son and Gladwin Kiddo himself, to ask them to help you to start preparing yourself to get a higher education. And they can guide you into some of the things that are being offered in Jamaica to enhance your education by getting some certificate, getting some degrees and stuff like that, like taking classes. You may have to go to some evening school in order to do that. You understand?
Well,
Many of the students who have gone through Jamaica School of Preaching, like myself, have done that. And I know many other students who have done that. So say, for example, Brother Buckland, for example, went and I would suspect he has a bachelor's degree, may even have a master's degree. Francis York probably has 2 master's degrees. Okay. Gladwin Kiddo probably has a master's degree in mathematics or science. You understand?
yes, sir.
So what I'm saying to you is that you need to be ambitious enough to begin to explore other things that you can do educationally, so that because the Jamaica School of Preaching process is going to help you to begin to think and to study and to read, and to understand. You may take Greek language, which is very helpful able to dissect words and understand English words. So the Jamaica School of Preaching education will help you, provided you are ambitious enough that want to take it to the next level. You follow?
Yes, sir.
But if you're just going to sit there for 4 years and do nothing else, then you're going to be limited to a church, and chances are the church that you are limited to cannot afford to support you financially. And especially if you decide to get married and have children. So then you may have to do as Paul, better remain single. Okay. and then you'll be able to do the work of the Lord because you have no responsibility.
No,
If
sir.
if you're thinking of getting married and having children, you better start now and start using this 4 years that the Jamaica School of Preaching is giving you, because they give you housing and everything else that they're giving you, to use it wisely. So in your downtime evening classes, try to begin to take a subject here and there. That's why I say speak to Brother Buckland, speak to Brother Francis York, and some of the other fellows there, that they can tell you how to do that and how to access and what's available and to help you along the road. Of course, so long as it doesn't cause your School of Preaching grades to suffer. You follow?
Yes, sir. Sir.
Yes, sir.
I really appreciate this advice that you have given to us. But however, I'm thinking, the COVID situation makes things a little different. So I'm not sure, it may be more challenging as you might think.
No, it is more challenging, because that's why I brought this up. Situations call for decisions, and you are faced with a global pandemic. How you handle that? You don't allow it to cripple you. You follow?
Yes,
How
sir.
you come out of this COVID? You can give up. You can resign yourself to failure because of the COVID. I can't do this. I can't do that. So you can choose to use the COVID as an excuse, and many of us have. As a matter of fact, I know people right here in the United States will not leave their home, period, because they're so panicked. For me, I have been in April. I've been April, May. I've been to Mexico twice. I've been to Aruba twice. I've been to Dominican Republic once in June. I went 6 weeks ago. I was in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So I am not going to allow the COVID to cripple me and to stop me from doing what I enjoy doing and what I like to do. So, but some of us have used the COVID as an excuse.
Yes, sir. That's true.
But I will be safe.
Yes.
I be safe. I wear my mask. I've been vaccinated. I was faced with a situation, and the situation is, am I going to be vaccinated or am I not going to be vaccinated? And the decision I made was what was in my best interest. I got vaccinated. And there are people in Jamaica that are faced with situation about the COVID and taking the vaccination. And they make decisions like Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve made a decision, didn't they?
Yes, sir.
But the decision that they made was not in their best interest, and it was not in our best interest either.
Sir.
So that's why Christ came. So I don't want you to think that this discussion is not within, the course, because it is.
Well, it's really important, sir. In fact, that's something we were supposed to talk about.
Yes, a long time ago. And sir, you have to encourage us, sir, and give us some more information.
We have to
Yes, about that. You see, my heart begin to beating fastly, sir. So so there is certain information that we don't have or we don't know, so we have our goal, we have planned for our lives. So there's certain situation that we don't want to fall, and we have to have a better life. You understand?
Right. And that's why I put up that phrase, all men know that situations call for decision.
Yes, sir.
And the moment you forget that is when you're in trouble.
Yes.
Because if you forget that, you're probably going to get some young girl pregnant. You follow?
Yes.
And once that happens, you have two choices.
Yes.
An abortion, well, three choices. An abortion, have the baby and not be married, and then child support, or get married. And then that may not even be the right girl. Okay. That may not even be the girl you want to spend the rest of your life with. So we're talking about decision.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes, you know, some of us may be impaired. And that's one of the things about maybe because you're not as intellectually gifted, you may have to work harder at math than most people. Some people are just good at math.
Yes, sir.
Others are not. So you may have to work harder on math or on English. Even English, you may have to work harder than other people, because some people grew up in an environment where English was, you know, they learn and they had all the backgrounds and their parents tutoring, and they had money to get a tutor, a helper. You may not have had those things. So you're coming into the situation at a disadvantage. And there are some vulnerabilities. But what I'm saying to you, even with all of those disabilities, you can overcome. If I say to you, when I first came to the Jamaica School of Preaching, I couldn't read. And that's a fact. Okay?
He couldn't read.
Okay.
I couldn't read when I first came to the School of Preaching. That's a fact. Today, I have a doctorate degree, okay, in clinical psychology. I have a master's degree in social work. I have a bachelor's degree. But when I first came to Jamaica School of Preaching, I could not read. All right.
And another question, sir.
Yes.
When I first came here, someone told me that maybe a teacher, I don't know, I don't remember, but he said after I finished Jamaica School of Preaching, I could be able to do a master's degree and also to have a PhD in theology. That's what he told me. And
Well, you can do all of those things, but not with the certificate you're going to be getting from there after 4 years. Like I said, I got all of those things. I got a master's degree.
So, sir, it's like you have to go back to zero.
And that's my point. I had to start from zero. That's my point.
See,
I had to start from zero.
Mm.
But what I'm saying to you is I'm not going to give up, and I'm not going to allow those challenges to cause me to give up. I could have given up. You follow? Many of my colleagues who may have gone to a school of preaching with me didn't do what I did.
Yes, sir.
And their lives are not as productive because they may be with a particular local church that cannot afford to support them.
Yes, sir.
And they may be older. They may be in their 60s now. They may be in their 50s now. You follow? And it's very difficult for them
Yes, sir.
to maneuver financially. So what I'm saying to you, you're young now, and your whole life is ahead of you.
sir.
So use this 4 years productively. Yes, you can have a master's degree. I'm a living example of that. But I had to start from scratch. That's the point. And somebody says zero. You got to start from zero. I got an associate's degree. Then after the associate's degree, I got a bachelor's degree. Then after the bachelor's degree, I got a master's degree. Then after the master's degree, I got a doctorate degree. But I started from scratch. So, but I thank the Jamaica School of Preaching because during the 4 years, they developed an appetite in me for learning. I wanted more. I wanted to be like my professors and my teachers. So I was hungry for more. I used to value people like Gladwin Kidu, you know, people like, because they at the time they were going to the university, they were young people. And I watched and admired them and wanted to be like them. So there was a hunger in my soul.
Ambitious.
Ambitious, yes, that's the word, ambitious, that I wanted more. And so I worked very hard. Now, listen, now I can do more for the church now because I can go to a congregation and I don't need them to support me because I will bring enough in my support to support myself. So money wouldn't be an issue for me as to what congregation I'm going to preach for, because there wouldn't be a need for them to support me because I bring money. Now I can do the job.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm trying to say to you. So you got to think about getting up. If you plan to get married, you're going to have children. You have to be the breadwinner. You have to prepare the leadership. You follow, and earn the respect from your family.
Yes, sir.
And certainly you want to send your children to get a good education. It's very expensive to do that. Okay, so you gotta plant this. Remember, it says, whatever a man sow, that's what they're gonna reap.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not talking about heaven, okay, because that was come. I'm talking about now.
Yes, sir.
The seeds you sow now are very critical. And so this is where we are in terms of, you know, all men knows that situation calls for decision. Aristotle rather said that before Christ was born. It was 384. Okay, we're talking about BC. Okay, he lived before Christ as a great philosopher, a Greek philosopher, made that tremendous statement that is so true. And that's something that you and I need to realize. So as young men, I think my greatest contribution to you is to say to you, try to think about your future and plot carefully, and not to use this 4 years that the Jamaica School of Preaching is given to you unwisely. In Ephesians, I want to find it. In Ephesians, I think it's Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 15. Ephesians 5:15. I think the same thing is also said in Colossians 4:5. But in Ephesians 5:15, Ephesians 5:15 says, where is it at? Therefore, be careful how you walk, not as unwise men, but wise. But actually, verse 16, I want. Making the most of your time because the days are evil. Yes, I think in the Colossian passage, Colossians chapter 4, I think Colossians chapter 4 and verse maybe 14 or 15, somewhere there it says redeeming the time. Colossians, where is it at? It's in there somewhere. I know it's in Colossians somewhere. You guys are smarter than I am.
Well, what?
It's in Colossians somewhere. I can't find it.
All right, sir. You said
I'm not giving up until I find it. I'm gonna hunt, because I'm gonna go to Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 16, and there's gonna be a reference in there in my Bible, I'm hoping.
Yes,
verse
sir.
16, verse 16.
Oh, let's delete the
It's Colossians chapter 4 and verse 5. Colossians chapter 4 and verse 5. Conduct yourselves with wisdom towards outsiders, making the most of every opportunity. The School of Preaching is giving you 4 years. 4 years.
Yes, sir. So now we take this opportunity now serious. So we are.
Yeah, you got to seize this opportunity. They're giving you 4 years.
Yes, sir. To study the Bible.
Well, but that's my point. Look, 4 years to study the Bible, but you are in Jamaica, and you have to sort out other opportunities in Jamaica on your own.
Yes, I agree.
On your own. That's why I said, speak to Joseph Buckland, speak to Francis York, speak to Gladwin Kidu. These are brothers who have gone down that road.
Yes, sir.
Because Gladwin isn't the director of the School of Preaching because of his Bible knowledge. You follow?
Yes, sir.
He is there because of the work that he did in his life, his education, and all of that. And so because of the Bible knowledge that he has, but because of all those other things, that he was able to own that position.
Yes, sir.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
I'm not saying he's not knowledgeable. He's very knowledgeable of the Bible. But his ability comes from a holistic approach in terms of his educational system that he got. And so they're able to make contribution. His son is able to make contribution to now the School of Preaching, but understand that he had a sound secular education. You follow?
Yes, sir. Follow.
So that doesn't mean, though, that the other professors and the other instructors are not to be respected because they have worked in their own field.
Yes, sir.
And they were successful in the field that they have chosen. You understand? And they are successful in their ministry. For example, Goody is successful in his ministry as a gospel preacher. But remember, Goody is a very talented individual. As a matter of fact, he used to print all of the material in the School of Preaching. He was a printer, an excellent printer. He ran the printing press in the School of Preaching, all the material, tracks and everything. So Goody is very savvy, okay, at what he did. So while we were studying in the School of Preaching, Goody was at the printing press, because the school had its own printing press. And so he used to teach, youngsters how to do that. And so he was able to master that and became part of his career.
Okay, sir.
I know another young student who did work on repairing electronic things, used to be a student there, and he became very good at it, excellent at it, and he was able to better himself. So, figure out, if you're not going to become a person down the road of an academic, pick some trade as some skill that you can become good at and have your own business and still be effective in the Lord's church.
Yes, sir.
So that's kind of where, and it's 8:48. And so the whole theme here was in that particular phrase. So I want you to remember that phrase. All men knows that decisions call for, situations rather call for decision.
You have to.
Yeah?
You have to do something.
Oh, yes.
You can't say, well, I'm not choosing.
It's swim or die, man.
Yes, sir.
And don't tell me you never learned to swim. You know how I learned to swim? Someone threw me over the pier. I couldn't swim, and they threw me over, and I decided I wasn't going to die. So I paddled. I paddle like a dog, man. Okay, even still this day, that's how I swim. So situation calls for action.
Yes.
and you have to.
He was not going to die.
No, I was going to die that day. You understand me? It's not happening. Not happening. So, but like I said, that's that you have to look at life. Don't lie down and die.
Yes, sir.
Take charge of your life. And do what you need to do. Just be honest. Don't take shortcuts. If you remain honest and do what you do, you will be successful.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll sort of here ended the lesson of the day.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I hope that it was useful and helpful, and hope that wish you guys luck and do all the best that you can. Okay.
All right, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Let me try to get out of this thing. How do I do this? Stop sharing. Okay, and then leave. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir. Have a great day.